Picture this, you're living back in the 16th century in a tiny European village where the moonlight's casting spooky shadows through the trees, and folks are whispering about curses and creepy stuff. You're head over heels in love. Your heart's doing somersaults for someone special, but then one day your neighbors start giving you the side eye. She put a spell on him, they mutter. Only a witch could make someone fall that hard. Before you can even explain, there's a mob outside your door, torches in hand, ready to drag you to a bonfire. Sound familiar? Okay, maybe not the bonfire part, but if you've ever been called out online for a misinterpreted text or some juicy relationship drama, you'll see we're not that different from our ancestors. Today we're taking a trip back to the 16th century, diving into the witch hunts of Europe, where love was sometimes mistaken for dark magic, and we'll compare it to the messy relationship dramas blowing up on social media today. You'll see that even centuries apart, people still love blaming spells instead of facing the truth. And don't worry, we're gonna dig into some lessons from the past to help you dodge those virtual burnings on X. Let's set the scene: Europe in the 16th century, a time when life felt like a horror movie with no fast forward button. People lived in tiny villages where gossip spread faster than wildfire. Back then, the church and local authorities were freaking out about so-called witches, anyone who dared to stand out from independent women to folks who fell in love in a way that seemed weird. If you loved the wrong person or loved too intensely, you could get accused of casting a love spell. For example, in Germany, a woman named Anna got dragged into court because she supposedly used a love charm to make a guy leave his wife for her. The result, she nearly got burned at the stake. Doesn't that sound a bit like getting exposed on X for stealing someone's man just because you like their pics too much? Back then, witch hunts weren't just about superstition. They were a way to control people. If you were a smart, independent woman or just didn't fit in, you were at risk of being labeled a witch. Love, which is already complicated enough, turned into a deadly trap. A kiss under the moonlight could be mistaken for a magic ritual, a love letter. Proof of witchcraft: over 50,000 people, mostly women, were executed during the witch hunts from the 15th to 18th centuries, often over vague accusations like these. Sure, we don't burn people at the stake anymore, but a single tea-spilling post on X can torch someone's reputation in hours. Here's the wild part: both the witch hunts back then and the social media dramas today come from the same thing: fear and misunderstanding. In the 16th century, people were scared of magic because they couldn't explain why someone would fall madly in love or act out of character. Today we blame tea or drama when someone doesn't act the way we expect. Instead of sitting down to talk, we jump to pointing fingers. It's kind of funny, right? Our ancestors were out there with torches screaming about witches while we're just tapping away on our phones, typing snarky comments. What kind of evolution is this, where we're still making the same mistakes just with better tech? So how do we avoid falling into this trap of blaming everything on magic? We'll get into that more, but first let's think about this. If you were living back then, would you be slick enough to avoid getting called a witch? Or would you be the first one canceled just for a flirty glance? Stick around to find out how those old school love stories got twisted into curses, and how we can learn from the past to steer clear of today's virtual bonfires. Alright, imagine you're standing in the middle of a 16th century European village, moonlight glowing on the muddy streets, and everyone's staring at you like you've done something shady. You just gave your crush a bouquet of wildflowers, and suddenly the neighbor lady starts whispering love spell. She totally used a love spell. Before you can explain that they're just flowers you picked from a field, the whole village is gathered ready to drag you to a bonfire. Sounds a bit like when you accidentally send a haha text to someone and the group chat starts buzzing that you're flirting hard, right? Welcome to a world where love gets mistaken for witchcraft. Back in those days, witch hunts weren't just a fad, they were practically a business. Professional witch hunters like Matthew Hopkins in England roamed from village to village, making bank by pointing fingers at anyone suspected of being a witch. Love, already a messy thing, became the perfect excuse to accuse someone. Take this guy Pierre in France, for example. He got accused of using a love charm to make a girl fall for him, all because he gave her a bracelet. The result? He was tortured to confess and nearly lost his life. If Pierre were around today, he'd probably just get blocked on X, but the drama. Totally the same vibe. These witch hunts weren't just about superstition. They were fueled by jealousy and prejudice. Women were the main targets, especially those who were independent or had a bit of charm. A smart, attractive woman living on her own could get labeled a witch if she drew too much attention. Love in the eyes of the crowd was proof of magic. If a guy fell head over heels for a girl, she must have used a spell, because how could love be that intense naturally? Sound familiar? These days we do the same thing just with fancier words. She must have done something to make him so obsessed. Doesn't that sound like a comment under a Juicy X post? The sad part is, these witch hunts didn't just ruin the lives of those accused, they tore entire communities apart. Families turned on each other, friends became enemies, all because of some baseless rumor. Think about a small town in Scotland where a woman named Janet got accused of bewitching her neighbor's husband. All she did was help him fix a fence, but that was enough for the whole village to turn on her. The result, she was tortured and executed. If Janet were around today, she'd probably just get exposed online, but that feeling of the whole world turning against you, pretty much the same deal. So why do we keep blaming magic instead of facing the truth? Back in the 16th century, it was their way of explaining stuff they didn't get, like intense love, sudden passion, or weird behavior. Today we do the same thing just with modern lingo. Instead of love spells, we talk about gaslighting or being toxic. Instead of bonfires, we've got mile-long tea-spilling posts on X where people judge without needing proof. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. These stories teach us that no matter the era, communication is key. If those 16th century villagers had sat down to talk instead of grabbing torches, maybe thousands of people wouldn't have died for nothing. Same goes for us. If we stop rushing to cancel someone online and actually listen, maybe there'd be a lot less drama. What do you think? If you were a villager back then, would you grab a torch or try to talk it out? Keep watching to see how we can learn from these bonfires to keep our own moonlight from turning into a curse. Alright, we've wandered through the dark villages of 16th century Europe where moonlight got people suspicious and love was mistaken for some kind of spooky curse. Now let's fast forward to today where bonfires are gone, but keyboards and phone screens are the new weapons. Ever scrolled through X and stumbled on a tea-spilling post that's like a mile long accusing someone of manipulating just because they sent a super sweet text, or seen a comment like she totally did something shady to make him fall for her? Welcome to Witch Hunt 2. 0, where the flames are replaced by retweets and hashtags. Let's rewind a bit. Back in the 16th century, when someone was suspected of being a witch, the whole community would show up to deal with it. They didn't need hard proof. A whisper, a weird look, or even a bit of jealousy was enough to get the mob going. Take Elizabeth in England, for example. She got accused of using a love spell to make a guy ditch his wife. Her crime, smiling at him too much at the market. The result, she was tortured and forced to confess to stuff she didn't do. If Elizabeth were around today, she'd probably just get called out on X with a post like, "Watch out for this girl, always flirting with married guys at the store." Familiar, right? We're still so quick to judge just swapping torches for screens. Here's the crazy thing, even though tech has changed, human nature hasn't budged. Back then, people were scared of stuff they didn't understand, like wild love or odd behavior. Today, we do the same thing. A couple breaks up, one of them must be toxic. Someone acts out of character, they're definitely gaslighting or under a spell. Instead of sitting down to talk, we whip out our phones and post something dramatic with a bunch of fire emojis for extra flair. It's kinda hilarious, right? We think we're so advanced, but we're just swapping torches for smartphones. So how do we break free from this cycle? Let's take a cue from the past. Those witch hunts ended in tragedy because nobody stopped to listen. If you were accused of being a witch, you had no chance to explain. The mob had already decided your fate. Today, we're just as quick to cancel someone without giving them a chance to speak. But here's a big lesson from back then: communication can put out the fire before it spreads. If those 16th century folks had just asked questions instead of pointing fingers, they might have realized that love spells were just a fancy way of saying someone caught feelings. Same deal now. If we stop rushing to expose people and actually talk, maybe social media wouldn't be such a war zone. Here's a real example in 16th century Germany. A guy named Hans got accused of using a love charm to make a girl fall for him. Truth is, he was just good at telling jokes, and she liked his sense of humor, but instead of asking what was up, the village hauled him to court. If Hans were around today, he'd probably get tagged in a post like, "Beware of this dude, he's out here seducing girls with his lame jokes, the fix." Talk it out. A simple message like, "Yo, what's going on here?" could stop a whole drama from blowing up. So what can we take away from those old bonfires? Don't be so quick to blame magic. Whether it's love spells or social media drama, love conflicts or misunderstandings can all be sorted out if we just open up and talk. Think about it, if you were caught in a drama on X, would you want people grabbing their torches or sitting down to hear you out? Stick around for the final part to see how we can turn these curses into chances to understand each other better. Alright, we've been on quite the ride from the blazing bonfires of 16th century Europe to the drama explosions lighting up X today. Even centuries apart, humans just can't stop blaming magic for stuff instead of dealing with the real deal. But don't sweat it today, we're gonna figure out how to douse those drama flames and turn those moonlight curses into happy endings. Let's recap real quick. Back in the 16th century, love got mistaken for witchcraft and innocent folks ended up on bonfires just for a flirty glance or a smile at the wrong time. Thousands of people, mostly women, got hit with wild accusations because society back then loved pointing fingers more than listening. Nowadays, we're not tossing people onto actual fires, but a single tea-spilling post on X can burn someone's rep to a crisp in minutes. From village whispers to savage online comments, it's like we haven't learned a thing, just upgraded the tools. But why do these stories still hit home? They remind us that no matter the era, drama comes from not talking things out. Back in the 16th century, if people had just sat down and asked questions instead of jumping to conclusions, thousands of lives could have been saved. Same vibe today, if we just shoot a private message to clear things up instead of blasting someone in a public post. Maybe social media wouldn't feel like a battlefield. Think about the last time you saw some drama unfold on X. Could a quick chat have stopped it from blowing up? The biggest takeaway from the past is this: don't let the moonlight cloud your judgment. Love fights or misunderstandings aren't magic or curses. They're just human stuff. Instead of blaming spells or manipulation, try having a real talk. A heart-to-heart can work better than any magic trick. Like if you catch your crush texting someone else, don't go straight to posting about how they're two-timing. Just ask, hey, what's the deal here? You'd be shocked how often things are simpler than they seem. So what can we do with this in our modern lives? First, listen up. Back in the 16th century, nobody gave so-called witches a chance to explain. Don't be part of today's torch-wielding mob. Second, check your facts before you share. A juicy expose post might be tempting, but if it's not true, you're just adding fuel to a virtual bonfire. And finally, remember, everyone's got their own story. That person getting called out on X has feelings just like those accused of witchcraft centuries ago. Looking forward, what kind of online world do we want? A cozy village under the moonlight where people chat and get each other, or a place full of virtual bonfires where anyone can get canceled at any moment? It's up to us. So next time you see drama brewing, are you gonna grab a torch or start a conversation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. Want more wild history stories full of drama? Check out our next video on secrets buried in history. Thanks for watching, you guys are awesome, and I'll catch you under the moonlight in the next one.